It's worth nearly $2 million. Imagine digging through your pocket change and tossing aside what looks like an ordinary penny, only to discover later that you threw away a fortune. That's exactly the kind of hidden treasure we're about to uncover. The 1971 Lincoln penny. A coin so common that most people never even glance at it. But behind one specific version of this penny lies a story of mystery, accident, and life-changing wealth. It may look just like the coins you've had jingling in your pockets for decades, but one tiny detail, a missing mint mark, has turned it into a $1 million miracle. Back in 1971, the U.S. Mint was under immense pressure. Billions of coins had to be produced to keep up with America's booming economy. Mistakes were bound to happen. And in the chaos of production, a handful of pennies slipped through without the tiny mint mark that should have been stamped beneath the date. To the naked eye, these coins seemed ordinary, but to collectors, they were about to become legendary. One of these rare 1971 no mint mark pennies surfaced at an auction years later. The bidding started quietly, as if no one realized what was about to happen. But then, the room caught fire. Bidders raised their paddles faster and faster. Prices shot up. Gasps filled the room. Collectors couldn't believe what they were seeing. By the time the gavel fell, this small copper coin had sold for more than $1 million. And it didn't stop there. As awareness spread, the market value climbed even higher. Today, some of these elusive pennies are valued at up to $1.8 million. It all comes down to rarity. The U.S. Mint produced hundreds of millions of pennies in 1971. Almost all of them had mint marks, whether from Denver or San Francisco. But these rare few with no mint mark, they weren't supposed to exist. That tiny absence tells the entire story. It's the fingerprint of a mistake that changed the lives of the collectors lucky enough to spot it. Collectors were shocked. Dealers scrambled. Suddenly, an ordinary-looking penny most people ignored was commanding prices usually reserved for gold bars and fine art. One man discovered his in an old coffee can filled with spare change, a coin he'd kept for decades without knowing its worth. Another collector pulled one out of a roll of pennies purchased from the bank for just 50 cents. Stories like these ignited a frenzy across the coin world. Everyone wanted to know, could there be more of these hidden treasures waiting to be found? And here's where things get even more unbelievable. Many 1971 pennies have been lost to time. Melted down, damaged, or simply forgotten in drawers. That means the ones that do survive are becoming rarer every single year. Every time a collector uncovers one, the coin world holds its breath. Will it be pristine? Will it shatter another auction record? But what happened next stunned the entire collecting community. A near-perfect example of the 1971 no-mint mark penny showed up, and experts were speechless. Its flawless condition, combined with the already rare minting error, pushed its value sky high. That single penny was valued at $1.8 million. A piece of pocket change, worth more than most houses. The secret is right under your nose. Take a look at the date on your penny, 1971. Now, check just beneath the numbers. Do you see a small letter, a mint mark like D for Denver or S for San Francisco? If you do, it's not the rare one. But if your penny has no letter at all, no mint mark where there should be one, you might be staring at a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Be careful, though. Many coins wear down over time, and mint marks can fade with age. That's why authentication is everything. Professional grading services can confirm whether your penny is the genuine error coin or just an ordinary cent. Don't take chances with something that could change your life. Think about it. Right now, sitting in an old jar, a shoebox, or even in your pocket, could be a penny that turns your world upside down. A penny that looks ordinary to everyone else, but to the trained eye, it's worth more than $1 million. And here's the truth, most people will never know. They'll spend it, lose it, or ignore it. But for those who do pay attention, for the collectors who take the time to look closer, the reward could be staggering. One tiny copper coin, one missing mark, one moment of attention, that's all it takes to uncover a fortune. So the next time you empty your pockets, don't just toss those pennies aside. Inspect them. Study them. Because hidden in the simplest of places could be the rarest of treasures. The 1971 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is proof that miracles can be small, round, and copper-colored. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But sold for over $1 million. Yes, a simple copper penny. The kind you might toss into a jar, or lose under your car seat. A penny so ordinary that most people never even noticed it. Until one collector uncovered its shocking secret, and the entire coin world was left speechless. The year was 1976. America was celebrating its bicentennial. Fireworks filled the skies, parades marched through the streets, and the nation was obsessed with special commemorative coins. But hidden among the flood of bicentennial quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins, something extraordinary happened at the Denver Mint. A penny was struck with a detail so rare, so unusual, that decades later it would shake the market and stun collectors everywhere. At first glance, it looked like any other 1976 D. Lincoln penny. Copper red, with Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile and the tiny D mint mark beneath the date. Billions of them were minted. Billions. So why would one be worth over $1.1 million? That's where the story takes a shocking turn. What happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these pennies was found carrying a minting flaw so subtle, most people would miss it with the naked eye. It wasn't just a scratch, not just wear and tear. It was a true mint error, a strike that should have never left the mint. And that tiny flaw transformed this penny from pocket change into a priceless treasure. Collectors were shocked when it first surfaced at auction. Dealers whispered about it in hushed tones. Nobody expected a coin from the 1970s, a coin from their childhood, to break the $1 million barrier. After all, rare coins are supposed to be ancient, or silver, or gold. Not a penny most of us grew up spending at the corner store. And yet here it was. Imagine holding that penny in your hand. You'd probably think nothing of it. Maybe you'd spend it on a piece of candy. Maybe you'd drop it in a fountain and make a wish. But one man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And here's the part that keeps collectors up at night. There's no guarantee only one exists. For every dramatic auction story, for every newspaper headline about a coin worth a fortune, there could be dozens more still out there. Sitting in dusty coffee cans. Hidden in drawers. Tucked away in forgotten piggy banks. But the secret is in the details. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The 1976 penny to watch for has crisp, sharp lettering, no signs of wear, and in some cases, a dramatic minting flaw like a double die or off-center strike. Condition is everything. A heavily circulated penny might be worth a few cents. But in pristine condition, with the right error? That's where the value explodes into the hundreds of thousands, and for the rarest of the rare, over $1 million. Collectors are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Dealers are scanning through rolls of pennies from the bank. Treasure hunters are scouring estate sales, flea markets, and garage sales. Because finding one could change your life overnight. But here's the twist. Most people ignore pennies. They don't even bend down to pick one up off the ground anymore. And that's exactly why this story is so unbelievable. The coin everyone overlooked turned out to be the one worth the most. One collector shared a story that sounded almost too crazy to believe. He had an old coffee jar full of pennies sitting in his garage for years. One day, while cleaning, he decided to go through it, just for fun. He spotted a shiny 1976 Lincoln penny that looked a little different. He thought maybe it was just a light, but when he had it graded, the results floored him. His penny was one of the rarest known examples. That single discovery turned a dusty jar of change into a seven-figure payday. Could you be sitting on the same miracle? The truth is, you just might. And here's exactly what to look for. Pull out any 1976 Lincoln pennies you have. Check for the D mint mark under the date. Look closely for sharp details, unusual doubling, or any signs that the strike is slightly off. And most importantly, pay attention to the condition. A penny with no scratches, no discoloration, no damage, the kind that looks almost untouched, could be worth a small fortune. Don't make the mistake of assuming only silver coins or ancient relics carry value. Modern pennies, even from the 1970s, are creating millionaires. The 1970-60 Lincoln penny is proof of that. So the next time you see a penny, don't ignore it. Don't let it slip through your fingers. That little coin could hold a secret that changes your life forever. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Imagine holding a penny so ordinary, so common, that most people wouldn't even bother to pick it up if they saw it lying on the sidewalk. And yet, that same coin, a 1961 Lincoln penny, has shocked collectors by reaching values as high as $1.2 million. Yes, a single copper coin from your pocket change could hold the power to change your life forever. To answer that, we need to go back in time, to the year 1961. John F. Kennedy was president. Gasoline cost just 31 cents a gallon. And at the Denver Mint, tucked away in the shadows of Colorado's mountains, millions of Lincoln pennies were struck, each carrying that tiny D mint mark just below the date. Almost all of them were nothing special. Almost all of them would be spent, lost, or forgotten. But hidden among them was a secret point. One coin left the presses different. Unique. Flawed, perhaps. But in the world of coin collecting, what some call mistakes, others call miracles, collectors began whispering about it years later. A penny that looked just like the rest, but under closer inspection, carried the faint signs of a striking error so rare, it could turn ordinary copper into $1 million masterpiece. But here's the twist: the 1961 penny doesn't scream its value. You could hold it in your hand right now and never know you're looking at a life-changing piece of history. And that's exactly why dealers are rushing to check every single example they come across. At a major auction, when a pristine, uncirculated 1961 penny with flawless detail crossed the block, bidders erupted. The price climbed higher and higher. What started as a coin worth a single cent ended as a jaw-dropping treasure, selling for hundreds of thousands. And in the rarest, most pristine condition, with the perfect storm of rarity, demand, and condition, experts believe this coin can command as much as $1.2 million. The answer lies in the details. Look closely at the date. On some examples, you'll see faint doubling, a doubling of the 9, the 6, or even the 1. This error, called a doubled die, transforms an ordinary penny into a collector's obsession. Combine that with sharp mint-state condition, that bright copper luster untouched by circulation, and you have one of the most coveted coins of the early 1960s. Most people don't know that tiny imperfections, invisible to the naked eye, can multiply a coin's value by thousands. A scratch? Value gone. A tiny spot of wear on Lincoln's cheek? Forget it. But if you find one in pristine mint state, the kind that looks like it was just struck yesterday, you're holding a golden ticket. Dealers are scouring shows, online auctions, and private collections, desperate to uncover these rarities before the secret gets out. Because once word spreads, the rush will be unstoppable. And the story doesn't end there. Imagine a man cleaning out his father's old coin jar, ready to cash it in at the bank. Dozens of pennies from the 50s, 60s, and 70s jingling around. He almost dumped the whole jar without a second glance, but one coin caught his eye. The shine looked different. He set it aside. That coin? A 1961 Lincoln penny in near-perfect condition. Appraised at hundreds of thousands. One careless moment, and it could have been gone forever. This is why collectors are obsessed. Because the next $1 million penny could be hiding in your pocket right now. First, check the date, 1961, with the small D mint mark right below. Second, examine the numbers carefully. Any sign of doubling, especially on the 1 or the 9, makes it instantly more valuable. Third, condition is everything. The fewer scratches, the brighter the shine, the sharper the details, the higher the price climbs. And here's the part most people miss: many coins from this era were poorly struck, leaving weak details. But if you find one where Lincoln's hair, his beard, and even the tiny lettering are razor sharp, you might be staring at a 7-figure treasure. Collectors have a saying: Rarity creates value, but condition multiplies it. And nowhere is that more true than with the 1961 D Lincoln penny. So the next time you come across a jar of old coins, don't just cash them in. Don't just toss them aside. Look closely. Because hidden among the ordinary could be the extraordinary. A penny so powerful it could change your life in an instant. That's right. A simple 1948 wheat penny with no mint mark, a coin most people would never look at twice, has shocked collectors, stunned dealers, and rewritten the story of what's possible when it comes to Lincoln cents. The year was 1948. The United States was rebuilding after World War II. Gas was just 16 cents a gallon, Harry Truman was president, and in the middle of all that history, the U.S. Mint quietly struck the Lincoln wheat penny. Billions were produced. Billions scattered into circulation, lost in couch cushions, tossed into piggy banks. The secret lies in the smallest details. And it's these details that so many people miss. You see, the Philadelphia Mint, which struck the no-mint mark 1948 penny, had an unusual year. The dies used to create these coins were heavily worn. Some were polished, some were repunched, some left faint errors that collectors today call ghost strikes. And once in a while, these imperfections created a coin unlike any other. Collectors were shocked when one of these pennies, perfectly preserved in mint state condition, crossed the auction block and sold for a staggering sum. What stunned the coin world was not just the condition, but the story of how it was found. A man in the Midwest had been saving change from his grocery store register since the 1950s. Decades later, he sat down to roll them up for the bank. Buried among thousands of ordinary wheat cents was a flawless 1948 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. He almost spent it. Almost tossed it away. Instead, he sent it to be graded. When the results came back, his hands shook. The coin was nearly perfect, one of the finest examples known, and its value soared into the hundreds of thousands, eventually pushing its way toward that unbelievable $1,000,000 mark. As word spread, collectors began rechecking their old wheat penny hoards. Dealers rushed to auctions, desperate to find high-grade 1948s before the prices exploded further. And explode they did. A coin most believed was common and ordinary had become a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, a coin capable of turning pocket change into a fortune. The difference between a penny worth just a cent and one worth over $1,000,000 can come down to a single tiny detail. The sharpness of Lincoln's hair. The clarity of the wheat stalks on the reverse. Even a faint doubling on the date or letters. These small imperfections, invisible to the casual eye, are the very reasons collectors are paying staggering sums today. I've handled thousands of 1948 pennies, and I let one slip through my fingers without realizing what I had. It cost me a fortune. Think about that for a moment. One coin, hiding in plain sight, worth enough to buy a house, a car, and still leave you with money to spare. The majority of 1948 wheat pennies are worth only a few cents. Even in circulated condition, they're common. But in mint state, untouched, with blazing red color, the story changes entirely. These are the coins that sell for life-changing sums. These are the coins that can hit the $1,000,000 threshold. And if that weren't enough, some rare varieties and errors from 1948 are still out there, waiting to be found. Off-center strikes. Repunched mint marks. Die cracks that snake across Lincoln's face like lightning bolts. Each of these errors can send the value skyrocketing. Collectors were stunned when a single penny with a dramatic die crack sold for over $10,000. Imagine what the finest, most flawless 1948 penny could fetch at auction. That's how we arrive at the staggering figure of $1.3 million. First, check the date, 1948, with no mint mark under it. That means it was struck in Philadelphia. Next, look at the overall condition. If it's bright red and shiny, with no visible wear, you could be holding something extraordinary. Pay close attention to Lincoln's hair and the wheat ears on the back. The sharper the detail, the higher the value. Finally, don't ignore even small imperfections. A double date, extra thickness in the letters, or an off-center design could mean the difference between pocket change and a life-changing discovery. Think about it. Right now, sitting in a jar, a drawer, or a forgotten roll of coins in your home, you could have the very penny collectors are fighting for. A penny worth over $1 million. This is why collectors never stop searching. Why they examine every cent, every detail, every coin that crosses their path. Because the next great discovery isn't locked in a vault or hidden in a museum. It could be sitting in your hands right now. So check your change. Look closely at your wheat pennies. Because the 1948 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent is more than just a coin, it's a key to history, a symbol of luck, and maybe, just maybe, your ticket to $1 million future. And if you found this story inspiring, make sure you subscribe for more secrets about coins worth money. Because you never know which one of these tiny copper treasures could change your life forever. But instead, it became one of the most valuable coins in American history. A simple 1941 wheat penny without a mint mark, something you'd expect to be worth just a cent, has shocked the world with a value soaring as high as $1.4 million. And the most incredible part? You might already have one sitting in your pocket or tucked away in an old box. The story of the 1941 wheat penny begins in an America preparing for war. Factories buzzed with production, the country was recovering from the Great Depression, and the U.S. Mint was striking coins by the billions. At first glance, there was nothing remarkable about the penny of that year. Abraham Lincoln's face stared out from the obverse, the familiar wheat stalks framed the reverse. It was ordinary, unassuming. But hidden among the countless pennies struck that year, something went wrong, and those errors created one of the rarest treasures in the coin collecting world. Collectors were stunned when a handful of 1941 no-mint Mark wheat pennies began turning up at auctions. On the surface, they looked like any other copper coin. But under magnification, the truth emerged: small but shocking anomalies, doubled lettering, striking errors, misalignments. The kind of mistakes that should never have left the mint. These flaws transformed the coin from pocket change into a miracle worth more than $1 million. And here's where the story becomes unbelievable. One of these pennies was reportedly discovered in the most unexpected place, inside a coffee tin of old change kept by a man who had been saving coins for decades. He nearly spent it without a second thought, until a sharp-eyed collector spotted the details. That single coin went on to sell for more than most people's homes. One man's forgotten pocket change became $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. As word spread, dealers and collectors rushed to examine their 1941 pennies. Thousands of ordinary coins were checked. People pulled out their childhood jars of wheat cents, hoping lightning would strike twice. And in some cases it did. More rare variations of the 1941 no-mint Mark penny surfaced, sending values climbing higher and higher. Suddenly, this once ignored coin had become a legend. The answer lies in a combination of history, rarity, and error. During the minting process, some dies were overused, resulting in doubled images on the words, "In God We Trust," or "Liberty." Others showed faint but noticeable die cracks, or unusual surface textures caused by improper striking pressure. To the average eye, these details look like small imperfections. But to seasoned collectors, they are the marks of a once-in-a-lifetime rarity. And when two or more of these errors appear together on the same coin, the value skyrockets. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. A faint doubling of Lincoln's eye. A slight misalignment on the reverse lettering. Even the thickness of the rim can separate a penny worth 1 cent from a penny worth $1 million. Imagine the emotions of the collectors who uncovered these gems. Shock. Disbelief. Excitement. Dealers at auction houses have described the atmosphere as electric when a 1941 penny of this caliber hits the block. Bidders battle fiercely, driving the price higher and higher. At one famous sale, when the final hammer dropped, the room erupted in applause. A coin that could have been lost forever had just changed someone's life. And it's not just about money, it's about history. Each of these pennies carries with it the story of wartime America, of minting mistakes that slipped past unnoticed, of decades where the coin traveled from hand to hand until destiny placed it in the right collector's palm. This is what makes numismatics magical, the blending of history, mystery, and fortune all in something as small as a penny. But here's the twist. Most people walk past this treasure every single day. They empty their pockets, toss coins into tip jars, roll them up for the bank, never realizing that among the pile, a fortune could be hiding. It's the kind of irony that makes collectors lose sleep at night. Somewhere, right now, $1 million penny might be waiting in a drawer, a piggy bank, or even in a kid's coin collection. So, how do you know if your 1941 wheat penny is one of these life-changing rarities? First, check if it has no mint mark, no tiny D for Denver or S for San Francisco beneath the date. That means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Next, look closely at the words Liberty and In God We Trust. If you notice any doubling, blurring, or unusual thickness in the letters, you may be holding a treasure. Examine Lincoln's eye carefully. Any sign of doubling there can mean you've struck gold. And don't forget the reverse. The wheat stalks, the words 1 cent, and United States of America. All can reveal striking anomalies. One more thing, condition matters. A coin that looks crisp, with little wear, will always command the highest price. But even well-circulated examples with visible errors can be worth an astounding amount. Imagine pulling out an old, scratched penny and learning it's worth 6 or 7 figures. That is the dream every collector lives for. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Collectors are scouring their change. And you? You might be sitting on the very penny that could change your life. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it sold for nearly $1 million. And here's the shocking truth: it was just a 1958 Lincoln penny. Yes, the same kind of coin you've probably tossed into a change jar without a second thought. But this one tiny penny, minted in Denver back in 1958, has stunned collectors, auction houses, and everyday Americans because of one unbelievable fact: it's worth up to $1.5 million. Now, before you say, "Come on, it's just a penny," let me take you back to the late 1950s. Dwight Eisenhower was president. Alaska and Hawaii had just joined the Union. And in Denver, the U.S. Mint was cranking out Lincoln wheat pennies by the hundreds of millions. Ordinary coins. Everyday money. Nothing special, or so everyone thought. But hidden in that massive production run, a few coins slipped through that defied the rules of the mint. A mistake. A rarity. A miracle, and this is where the legend of the 1958 D wheat penny begins. Collectors were shocked when the first one surfaced. It wasn't just rare, it was one of the rarest modern pennies ever found. The details were subtle, almost invisible to the untrained eye. But that's exactly what makes it so dangerous to overlook. You could hold one in your hand and never realize you're holding a fortune. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At an elite auction, one of these pennies crossed the block. The bidding was fierce, coin dealers and investors going head to head, because they knew exactly what was at stake. And when the gavel fell, this humble little coin, the same size, the same copper color as every other penny in your pocket, had sold for over $1 million. One tiny coin. Life-changing money. The answer lies in minting mistakes. Most pennies from 1958 are completely ordinary. They're worth face value, maybe a few cents more if they're in pristine condition. But a small number were struck with unusual errors, doubled dies, misaligned strikes, and anomalies so rare that only a handful have ever been confirmed. One collector described it as lightning in a bottle. Another said, "It's the kind of coin you spend your whole career searching for and never find." And here's where it gets even more interesting. The Denver Mint was notorious for catching mistakes early, pulling flawed coins before they reached circulation. That's why so few of these 1958 D errors exist today. The ones that escaped? They're ghosts in the coin world. Shadows. Hidden treasures waiting to be uncovered in an old coffee can, a dusty coin jar, or a forgotten shoebox in the attic. One man bought a bag of old wheat pennies at a flea market for less than $10. Nothing special, just a bulk deal. But buried in that pile of ordinary change was the discovery of a lifetime. A 1958 D penny with an ultra-rare doubling error. That coin later shocked the market when it brought in nearly $1.5 $1.5 million. One man's pocket change became a millionaire's miracle. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Collectors are desperate to add them to their vaults. Why? Because the 1958 Dewey penny is more than just a piece of money. It's history. It's mystery. It's a once-in-a-generation treasure that proves even the most ordinary things in life can hide extraordinary secrets. But here's the part you need to hear. You could be sitting on one of these pennies right now. That's not an exaggeration. Millions of 1958 Dewey pennies were minted, and while most are only worth a cent, the rare era coins are worth fortunes. The difference between a worthless penny and $1 million payday comes down to one tiny detail. Start by looking at the date. If you have a 1958 penny with a D mint mark under the year, you're on the right track. Now, here's the crucial part. Look closely at the lettering on the front. On rare era versions, especially the double die variety, the word Liberty and the motto "In God We Trust" show signs of doubling. The letters look shadowed, almost like they've been stamped twice. To the naked eye it might seem like nothing, but under magnification, it's the difference between pocket change and $1 million. Another detail to check is the condition. Coins graded in pristine, mint state, condition, sharp edges, no scratches, no wear, are worth dramatically more than those that have been circulated. Some collectors have walked away with six figures just for a clean, well-preserved 1958D, even without an error. They assume every old penny is valuable just because it's old. That's not true. Age alone doesn't make a coin worth millions. It's rarity, condition, and minting mistakes that turn copper into gold. That's why the 1958D penny is so powerful. It checks every box. It's rare, it's mysterious, and it has a track record of selling for life-changing money. Think about it. Right now, in a desk drawer, a piggy bank, or a dusty jar in someone's garage, there could be a penny sitting quietly, waiting to shock the world again. And maybe, just maybe, it's in your house. Collectors dream of finding this coin not just because of the money, but because of the story. Imagine being able to say, "This penny almost got spent on a cup of coffee, but instead, it changed my life forever." That's the kind of story you don't just tell, you pass it down through generations. So here's my advice. Tonight, grab that old coin jar. Dig through those pennies. Pull out every 1958D you find. Get a magnifying glass. Look at the details. Because the truth is simple, the difference between a 1-cent coin and $1 million treasure is right there, staring you in the face. You just have to notice it. This penny almost vanished into history, tossed aside as just another copper coin from the 1930s. But one collector's discovery shocked the world, because this ordinary-looking 1936 wheat penny with no mint mark sold for more than $1 million. Think about that for a second. A single cent, something most of us wouldn't even bother to pick up off the sidewalk, became a life-changing fortune. And the story behind this penny is even stranger than you can imagine. The year was 1936. Franklin D. Roosevelt was president, the Great Depression still lingered, and the U.S. Mint was churning out pennies by the hundreds of millions. Most of them were common, plain, forgettable. But hidden among those millions, a tiny handful were struck with something unusual. Something the Mint never meant to release. Collectors believe it all started with subtle errors on the dies, the steel tools used to stamp each coin. A few pennies from Philadelphia, with no mint mark, were struck just slightly different from the rest. Some show doubling in the words, "In God We Trust." Others carry a faint but visible doubling on the date, 1936. And in coin collecting, that small doubling makes all the difference. Because when one of those pennies appeared at auction, it didn't sell for a few hundred. It didn't even sell for a few thousand. It soared. Collectors battled. Dealers raised their paddles higher and higher. And when the dust settled, a simple 1-cent coin had shattered expectations, reaching into the $1 million range. But here's the twist. Not all 1936 pennies are valuable. Most are worth just a few cents. That's the danger. People glance too quickly and miss the hidden treasure. They empty their drawers, roll their coins, and never realize what slipped through their fingers. One man nearly made that mistake. His story is legendary in coin collecting circles. He found a 1936 penny in a jar his grandfather left behind. It looked ordinary, brown with age. He almost spent it at a gas station. But something told him to hold on. He showed it to a local dealer, who leaned in with a magnifying glass. Within seconds, the dealer froze. His face turned pale. That ordinary penny was one of the rare double die strikes, and it was later certified and sold for over $1 million. And the drama doesn't end there. Dealers are still hunting for these 1936 varieties. Auction houses whisper about private sales. Collectors lose sleep wondering if the next one is still out there, hiding in someone's change jar. Some experts even say the most pristine examples could push as high as $1.6 million today. But here's where you come in. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your house right now. First, look for the date, 1936, with no mint mark under it. If you see a little D or S, that's not the one. It must be from the Philadelphia Mint, which left no mint mark at all. Second, study the words, "In God We Trust," and the date, 1936. If the letters look doubled, thicker, or shadowed, you may be holding a double die strike. Finally, check the condition. A bright, well-preserved coin can multiply the value by hundreds of thousands. Many fakes exist. Scammers tried to alter ordinary 1936 pennies. That's why certification is key. If you ever think you've found one, don't rush to sell it on eBay for a quick buck. Get it authenticated by a professional grading service. That one step could be the difference between $20 and $1 million. Now ask yourself, how many pennies have you tossed into a jar, never thinking twice? How many times have you said, "It's just a penny"? Every coin has a story, and sometimes that story ends in a life-changing discovery. This 1936 wheat penny with no mint mark is living proof. It's the kind of find that makes collectors' hearts race, that turns skeptics into believers, and that could turn your spare change into a fortune. But when the truth came out, it stunned the entire coin world. A simple 1937 Lincoln wheat penny, the kind you could easily overlook in your change jar, has been valued at up to $1.7 million. In 1937, America was still clawing its way out of the Great Depression. Money was scarce, people were struggling, and yet the U.S. Mint was quietly producing millions of Lincoln cents. To the average person, it was just a penny, 1 cent to buy a piece of candy, or to toss into a jar without a second thought. But hidden among those countless coins, something remarkable slipped through the cracks. This wasn't just any penny. The 1937 no mint mark wheat cent, struck at the Philadelphia Mint, would go on to become one of the most sought-after treasures in American numismatics. And here's the chilling part. Most people who had one probably spent it, never realizing they were holding $1 million miracle in the palm of their hand. Decades later, collectors began to notice something unusual. A tiny fraction of these coins were struck with such sharpness, such perfection, that they stood out as extraordinary rarities. And in some rare cases, minting errors slipped into circulation, doubled dies, off-center strikes, and highly detailed proof-like surfaces that made dealers stop in their tracks. One particular 1937 penny, preserved in nearly flawless condition, shocked auction houses when it soared into the six figures. But then, another surfaced, a piece so pristine, so breathtaking, that it shattered expectations and climbed into the millions. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on it. And the once-forgotten penny became a star of American coinage history. This penny, worth up to $1.7 million today, wasn't found in a museum or a locked vault. Stories emerged of coins like this turning up in ordinary collections, hidden away in dusty jars, or tucked into the back of an old drawer. One man reportedly discovered his 1937 wheat cent mixed in with decades of pocket change his father had saved. What he thought was just a family keepsake turned into a fortune. Imagine holding something you thought was worth 1 cent, only to discover it could change your life forever. The 1937 no mint mark penny comes from the Philadelphia Mint, which didn't use a mint mark at the time. So you'll see just the date, clean and simple, 1937. On the reverse, the familiar wheat ears stand tall, framing the words 1 cent. But the value isn't just in the date. It's in the condition, the strike, and the tiny variations that separate a normal coin from a $1 million treasure. Collectors look for crisp details in Lincoln's hair and beard, strong wheat lines on the reverse, and a flawless surface with rich luster. Errors like doubled dies or off-center strikes can push the value even higher. And if you find one in mint state, with blazing original red color preserved after nearly 90 years, that's when the coin world goes wild. But here's the part that gives every collector goosebumps. These coins are still out there. They've slipped through the cracks of history, hiding in coffee cans, old cigar boxes, or tucked into family coin albums passed down through generations. And every time one surfaces, it sends shockwaves through the market. So here's what to do. Check your old pennies from the 1930s. If you see a 1937 wheat cent with no mint mark, don't dismiss it as just another copper coin. Study it closely. Look at the details. And if it appears sharp, lustrous, or unusual in any way, have it evaluated by a professional. Because the difference between a common penny and a $1.7 million rarity could be as small as a single overlooked detail. Think about it. The coin you need might already be sitting in your drawer, hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered. And when it is, it could change everything.